Damn, wasting the man's time.
I didn't want to interrupt him. Greetings, everyone, for a special episode of MUSiPOLiTiX. We'll wait for everybody to get here, give it a few minutes, and during that time, I will introduce everybody else on the screen. Hopefully, everybody already knows me and my illustrious co-host. I never get it right in the first try. It should be straight down. That should have been easy enough. Mr. Michael Bland, best drummer on the planet, as ranked by Modern Drummer. And one of my favorite people to discuss anything with, one of the smartest people I know. And then to this direction is my cousin Fred, who is also a brilliant individual and one of my favorite people, and also a musician. Although, when's the last time you picked up a bass, Fred?
Last month.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes me very happy to hear. How much rust was there?
Not a lot, actually. I still listen to a lot of music, and it kind of felt pretty natural. So.
Okay, that's great news. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and Fred's childhood, which will allow me to introduce the gentleman to my left. In middle school, we were in a program called Arts Are Prevention, which was to teach kids music and theater and dance and just the arts in hopes of keeping them out of trouble. And it at least worked for me and Fred, and for most of the other kids in the program, we stayed out of trouble. But the founder of that program was a gentleman named Joe McClain. And, as kids, you just kind of think about this is an adult, and, adults are kind of like their own species, and you don't really know much about them other than they're the ones, kind of dictating what you can and can't do. But every so often we'd hear little windows into who Joe was. And I remember the first one that made me think okay, so maybe not all adults are the same, was hearing about Joe working for Dr. Martin Luther King. Because even as a 6th grader, 7th grader, even in the worst public schools, they at least teach you who Dr. King was. And so I was like, wow, he knew somebody important. And I've known Joe for now, almost 30 years. And the longer I've known him, the more stories I hear from both before his time with the civil rights movement and after. And every story you hear is just okay, there needs to be a movie, or somebody needs to write a book or something, because all of this is interesting and all of this is an important part of history. And so I finally was able to talk him into joining us and telling some of those stories on the record. And because a lot of them deal with civil rights and racism and justice and equality and all that, I thought it would be apropos to do it right before Juneteenth as the MUSiPOLiTiX way of celebrating Juneteenth. Just for our listeners and viewers who might not know, does anybody want to take a stab at explaining Juneteenth? Fred, Michael?
Take what?
I'm still doing the intro, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, I don't know all the details I should, to be perfectly honest. So if you want to explain Juneteenth, please do it.
Joe, you want to explain Juneteenth?
You do it.
I'll do it. Okay. So when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, it wasn't like there was television and it wasn't like there was internet, and the white American power structure had a vested interest in not letting people who weren't free know that it had happened. And so June 19th, I can't remember the year, but it was years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, was when the word finally reached the last slaves in Texas that they were free. I'm going to look up the date because I should know the year and I don't. And so when we celebrate Juneteenth, we're celebrating not, when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, but when it was finally implemented. I'm looking up the. Why you'd think Google would have the year? I guess they're not really trying to. Anyhow, it was I think 2 years later. Does that sound right, Joe?
Yeah, about that.
So when we have Juneteenth celebrations and concerts and Black History programs. Oh, Maya knows. Oh, let me put Joe's screen. Sorry, Joe. I didn't realize. Yeah. So you can see it better. So there, that's from Maya. She put the year up there for you.
Mm.
So anyhow.
1865.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that was how
June 19th.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So that was how I came to know Joe. Fred, you want to say anything to introduce Joe?
I guess what I'll say is, Joe, like you said, you covered a lot of the introductory or high level stuff about back in the day during arts harm prevention. But aside from that, something that you didn't mention, Joe was always like that grandfather that I never really had. And he just spent a lot of time with us and was really impactful through his program, even in times when we weren't at practice. You know what I mean? And he always would impart different stories on us and share knowledge with us. It wasn't always related to kind of the civil rights movement, but just whatever he thought we needed to hear, he would definitely tell us and not hold back. But the way he would always do it was always real nonchalant, but Joe would always keep it real with you and bribe us with dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. I can remember just being in the car. Joe used to have, remember that blue Buick?
Oldsmobile.
And yeah, we'd just be driving to a rehearsal or a gig, or sometimes if we could talk him into a restaurant afterwards, and he'd just tell a story off the cuff. And I'd just get little nuggets here and there. So without further ado, was that a good enough introduction, Joe?
You could keep on going.
Well, we want to say
Yeah.
So what we've asked Joe to do is just to take us through the milestones of his life as though he's, narrating his autobiography. We won't have time to get to everything, so we'll have to skip over some of it. If any of us, want to stop and ask questions, we may, or we may just let Joe go.
Okay. Ready?
We're ready for you, Joe.
All right. We really kind of talked about it first to deal with where I lived, the first where I was born. I was really born in a little town called Belzoni, Mississippi. And I call it in the heart of Ku Klux Klan land because it was very dangerous and thing. I am old enough that I remember my great-grandmother, who was a slave, and 4 or 5 years old before she passed away. And then her daughter, my grandmother, became a school teacher. My grandfather was a blacksmith. He could make anything out of iron and did it. Okay. In Mississippi, I remember times that we had to sleep on the floor because the Klan was riding through town, through the countryside, shooting up people's houses just for the hell of it, not because the people that did anything. My mother and father separated, and then my grandmother, I don't know if I said this before, was a school teacher. You ever hear of a woman named Mary Bethune? No. Bethune, the college, she developed a black college called Bethune. Well, anyway, they started one of the first black women's professional association that was dealing with trying to better the life of black people. All of my grandmother had 2 daughters and 3 sons. The sons only finished the 8th grade if they were sharecroppers, which I call the second institution of slavery. And my grandmother, her daughters all went to college and uh, uh, and graduated and became teachers. That's about the only thing they could do in the South, was become teachers. You should give me an idea of what the schools were like in the South. And you start school somewhere in December. In March, you have to come out to go to work in the fields. So you never had, and in many schools was 2-room, just 2 rooms. This split between 4th grade, 8th grade, and this. And many times the 8th grade teachers, kids were teaching the 3rd and 4th grade kids because they didn't have money or to get qualified teachers. In one of the first civil rights, one of the first things I remember, my grandmother and I was in a store, and I can even remember the name of the store. It was Abraham Grocery Store. She was ordering food, so groceries. Little boy about my age, about 10 years old, calling my grandmother, Louisa. Louisa, what do you want, gal? You noticing that? And she said, and she was calling him Mister. And in the black community, you were taught that older people, you says Mr., Mrs., yes, sir, and no, sir, and never by their given names. Unless you say Mr. Charles or Mr. what, but you would not just say Charles. You were taught that in the black community, and I'm looking at this white boy talking to my grandmother like that, and I didn't quite understand it. I'm listening to this, but later on in life, I began to understand what was going on and what she had to put up. My father and my mother separated. And divorces down in Mississippi, you put 40 acres between you and leave each other alone. You're divorced. Okay, you didn't go to court or spend money to the lawyers and that and that. So they separated, and my grandmother had my 2 aunts, one in East St. Louis and St. Louis, to take us so we can go to better schools. So that was thing. I'm gonna skip some of that part of my life, but pretty soon my father got married again, and his brother-in-law got him a job in Milwaukee, Green Bond Tannery. So he moved there. Then he got me and my other brother to come and live with him and my stepmother. to show you how I felt when I first went school. I was in the 6th grade. I walked into the front office and I saw all these white folks, principals, the vice principals, and it scared the hell out of me because I had never dealt with that many whites in my life. So I had a cousin that was in the same school in 5th grade. So I put myself back so I can be with him. I was afraid to be in a class by myself. What's her name? Nehemiah, who used to be the prime minister of Israel. You know of her? I'm asking questions.
No, I actually don't.
Okay, she became the prime minister then. She lived 1 block from where I lived and went to the same school I did, but she was in a higher grade than I was. So that was an area that my folks were always telling me about. They were all going to church, praying that God will, provide. But when I looked on the corner and I saw all the Abbott Earl and all of the boys they called players running around in their big cars and they got the pretty girls and this and that, you know what I'm saying? I think I want that, not this, because this don't seem to be providing what the things I want. So I begin to deal with the streets.
Yes. The streets. Here, this is what we came for, sir. Joe McClain, sir. We came to hear about the streets.
Well, the first thing it was, I started working for a person who runs policy thing, Albert Earl. You know what the policy is?
No, what is that?
Well, back in those days, they used to put us in jail for running it. Now they call it the lottery.
Oh,
Playing the numbers.
yes.
Many black people survived just about every barbershop, restaurant, and this and that. In many of the houses, you had runners and people dropping off, and it was nickels and dimes. And it wasn't until later in life, a guy by the name of Dutch Schultz got to realize that the nickels and dimes were making black policy owners, millionaires.
Yeah.
Like the Miller brothers and bankers, all of those type of people. They did not, as that gangster life, they did not shoot up each other for power. They try to outdo each other. I'm running this wheel. They call it a wheel. I pay off times better than you do. I pay off a little more than you do, you know. And there was never that boom, boom, boom thing, okay? Factor. So I got to messing around looking at that. Then one day, I end up in jail. And jail, it looked like I got into a thing. Well, let's start this. I went from boys' school to reform school, and for reform school to prison twice.
Wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I learned. To tell you the truth, I ran into some people who learned me a different trade. A fellow by the name of William Dexter Duhart, but they call him Smooth Kid.
Smooth Kid.
Smooth Kid. And, you know, I became a safecracker. He taught me the trade. But I ended up, let's go to the last time I was in prison. I was in prison, and one morning I'm working in the barber shop. I come in, there's a guy by the name of Red. They called him Red because he had tremendous red hair. And he was crying. And I'm saying, hey, sucker, what the hell are you crying about? You did the crime, not do the time. You know, ain't nothing to cry about. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Then he showed me a paper which he had cut out the news, separately cut out a newspaper that showed me a young boy about 16, 17 years old who had went to the reformatory for stealing cars. He said, that's my son. And he said, he said, my thing is, I've been in and out of these prisons for the last 20 years. Even if I was in the streets, I couldn't tell him what to do right because of the life I lived. At that time, I had a son about 9, 10 months old. I just come into prison. And I said, damn, you know, that kind of hit me hard. And I'm saying, what would it be like 15 or 20 years when he grew up and he get caught up in this mess? What could I tell him? So that's where I began to change my life. I started going to school. They had school there. My boss at the shoe shop thought I was just joking. So I ended up having the warden to put me in solitary confinement. I stayed in solitary confinement for 15 months so I could study.
Wow.
You know, and my people who helped me most were the Catholic priests who come and the Lutheran chaplain. I would have stuff that I didn't know about. I couldn't explain words, and they come once a week. I have them all written down. Let's talk about this, you know. So, and at that period of time, I was married because I told you I had the son. Every day that I was in prison, I got a letter from my wife. Every visiting day, she came. Okay. By her visiting and coming and me studying, eventually there was a black dude named Oscar Shade on the parole board. I made parole, got out.
All right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask you a quick question, Joe?
Yeah.
So we glossed over real quick that you were cracking safes, which is fascinating to me because that's a.
I ain't gonna learn you.
What'd you say? Oh. So no, what I want to know is, I mean, so how did you get caught?
I didn't get caught. One of the things you can do is you can plan how to do a lot of things, okay? Mm-hmm. But then there's something about faith. How I got caught in school in cracking a safe, was a woman couldn't sleep at night looking out a window and seeing us going into this bakery. Um, for instance, if you were working with me, I will tell you to drive 10 minutes down that way and turn around and come back. Good thing. Well, if I'm not outside of there, then you just keep going. Okay. Well, she saw the license plates. And he was supposed to steal a car, but he borrowed his girlfriend's car. That's how you go to jail. Fake.
Fate.
If we have time, it sounds like there's a lot more stories right in this area right here we can come back to if we have time. But I know if we stop on every little section of your life, we're gonna be here 10 hours instead of 2.
Now you got me off my thing.
Yeah, you got him off his thing now.
About how the can't do the crime if you can't do the time.
Well, then I came home. The last thing letter I got from my wife, and I told you I was getting these letters every day. The first thing is when I went to jail, we were down at the county jail, and she said, "I'm gonna wait on you. I'm gonna be true." I said, "Well, hold on, wait a minute." I said, "You're a young woman. People have desires and everything that you don't have to go to jail because I went to jail."
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I ask you to do, don't mess around with my no good friends. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
And then if you fall in love with somebody, I should be the third person to know. All right? Well, I don't want to hear it, okay? That's the way that conversation went.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear it because so with all those letters and thing, the visits, it really got me out of prison at a very early age of time. And then when I got home, and I told you the last letter, I'm so glad to be home, you be coming home so our family can get together and all this crap. When I get to home, sitting down, we talk, she had everything I like to eat, cooked. We're sitting there eating. She said, "There's something I like to do. I'd like to tell you. I want to talk about." And I was thinking to myself, I don't think I want to hear it. You know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just felt that.
Mm.
And she says, "I'm in love with 2 men, you and some other guy, you know." She says, what should I do?" I says, "I can't tell you what to do. Because what I would say, hey, come to me, and we get our family together like you said, but that might not be what you want to do. So there's whatever you got to make up your mind what you want to do."
Yes.
And so we sat and talked. And I'll tell you the truth. And the guy kept calling, and she answered the phone. And so I grabbed the phone. So I said, "Look, she'll talk to you tomorrow." Oh, you ain't got no business talking about me. And I said, man, don't you know that's my wife? I got all kind of business talking.
Yes, sir.
And so I started to truthfully go to bed with my wife. And I got up. I probably put my clothes back on. I had my daddy's car. And I said, I'm going home. And that was to my dad, dad and mother. And she said, well, will you drop me off someplace? I dropped her off at her boyfriend's house. Okay? And because in my life, I always felt I will fight to defend a woman, but I will fight nobody over a woman. All right? And that was hard to live with because I wanted to hurt somebody those days. All right?
You wanted to put hands on somebody, Joe?
I wanted to put hands on somebody.
You wanted to touch somebody?
Speaking of putting hands, was this before or after you were a professional boxer?
Oh Lord!
I'm serious. Joe was a professional boxer at one point. Was this?
I believe you.
Was this before or after that?
Before the training or after the training?
It was after.
So we skipped over the whole professional boxer thing. We skipped over the whole professional boxer.
We skipped over a lot of my life, man. We have to.
Yeah. The thing I'm wondering, Dan, either you're going to have to lead him to where you want him to go, or you're going to have to let Joe do Joe. It's good. It can work. He doesn't see. Joe seems flexible. If you got something you want to talk about with Joe, just.
Am I boring you?
Not at all.
Okay.
But I do want to hear about the boxing career, though. But no, we'll get back to that one. Stick a pin in that one.
No, I want to hear more about what. So, okay, what? Are we moving to a different chapter? What sounds like you dropped your wife off at her boyfriend's house? Was that the end of it?
Oh, when I walked into the door, my mother said, "I'm not surprised to see you." See, they knew about this relationship she had.
Sure.
Not only with him, with other people too.
Oh boy.
So, and when they come, they never told me anything about it. They let it be because. So she said, my mother asked me. She says, "Are you through with all this stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so. I know so." My dad said, "That boy, you're gonna be right back out there in them streets again." And my mother said, "Well, if he says to me, I am sure he won't be back out in the streets." So that's when, and because he never lies to me. So the life start turning around different directions. I end up working job. I was working at a company called A.O. Smith. The guys I was chipping and grinding for 2 welders. And I had them to show me how to do this welding thing, And the guys would go and take breaks and take longer and longer. And I didn't give a darn. I do both jobs. I kept welding and welding. So one night I come in. The guy says, my foreman says, "We've been trying to get a hold of you." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, we're going to change your classification to a welder." I said, "Oh, why is that?" He said, "Well, you're doing the job. You might as well get paid for it."
Yes.
And so that's how I become a welder. And in this area there, you get just about A.O. Smith if you ain't got a million years. Every summer you get laid off. I used to like it because I get summertime off and have a good time. Okay,
Mhm.
drawing employment,
Yes.
and so, but I had started with another woman. She had a kid, and this and that. Unemployment wouldn't take care of us like I wanted to be taken care of. So I went to look for another job, and the guy told me, he says, "You're not a welder, son. You work for A.O. Smith. You're a rod burner." And I
Mhm.
said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You don't even know how to set your machine. You got people set your machine. You just go there and pick up a rod and hook them up and start going. So that's all you know." I said, "Wow." I didn't thought. I went home. That next day, I went back to him. I said, "Well, I would like for you to learn me how to weld, and you don't have to pay me. Just teach me."
Uh-huh.
2 weeks later, he gave me a check. So I learned 3 different types of welding from there. So I went there for 15 years now.
Yes.
I'm welding till my eyes start going bad. So I had to quit. And one day I was passing, I, here's the civil rights thing coming up. All at once, there's a person in Milwaukee by the name of, a woman by the name of Val Phillips, who was um, on the city council. She was the only black person there. And there were 19 county different districts. Every year, she would put in a law for open housing because open housing, why? Blacks could only live in one district. And that was the worst district in the city of Milwaukee. The inner city of Milwaukee was really the slums.
Uh,
And you can only live there. You couldn't buy a house anyplace else out of there. So so she put that and she put that law in every year, try to get it passed. It comes out 18-19, no, 18-1. She's the only one that voted for the law. There was a Catholic priest who moved in from the South Side who had been marching with King. And he moved over to church there in the inner city. And the nuns was teach. They had a NACP youth council there, yeah, grouping thing.
okay.
But the nuns was teaching them little doo-doo song. Then he come in, he say, "Well, y'all teaching them kids that stuff, sir. Why don't you teach them something that they need to know?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he started teaching them freedom songs
Uh-huh.
that people had. Then uh, first they started uh, um, protesting uh, the mayor, a couple Judge Gordon, and all of these folks that belongs to the Eagles Club, which had a charter that says no blacks, Jews, or whatever could jump belongs to it.
Mhm.
That's what That's what that marches started. They started marching around these people's houses. It took the third day they marched around Judge Gordon house. It took the National Guards to get them out of there. But those kids went back the next day. It didn't stop them.
Okay.
Okay, so, but Val Phillips come and that asked them, why don't they support her in the open housing march, the open housing?
Mm-hmm.
It changed their direction to get an open housing law where blacks can get money at any financial company and move and live wherever they want to live in the city and don't have and be around good schools and whatever. So that the kids changed it. And they started marching for the open housing thing. And they marched to the south side. They marched across the viaduct, the bridge there, which is now called Groppi's Bridge. It was 16th Street Viaduct back in those days.
Okay.
People started attacking them, even the police. Okay. I sat there, used to, I ran home from work and watched the news. And one day he said, come on, Groppi said he's creating a group called the Commandos to protect the marches against the people whose thing. And you know what I said? What that white boy trying to do? Start a riot? Okay. Then I started going to the rallies every night. Dick Gregory, you remember him, don't you?
Yes.
Oh, he was there. He was there every night. Dick Gregory and whatever. That was before he ran for president.
Okay.
And so me and a couple of friends we went slumming. We went down to the rally one night. And I'm sitting there watching them, listening to them talk. And we went the next night. Pretty soon, nobody go but me. They stopped going.
Uh-huh.
And I started taking my kids down there. Then and what happened is, in the process, I take my kids and we sit there and listen. But I wouldn't march with them. I would walk a few blocks on the sidewalk until one night, police come out of the gangways and things and started beating up the people's kids, women, children, everybody. And there was a lady on her porch. And I walked up to this lady and I told her, I said, these are my daughters. They know their telephone number. Have them call their mother, come pick them up. She said, what you gonna do? I said, I'm going out there. She says, why? I said, I don't know why I'm going out there, but I know I got to go out there.
Uh-huh.
I got my head busted and went to jail.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, I went out there fighting the biggest police you can find. And one walked up behind me and cracked my head open. So they got me out the next day. They bailed me out of jail the next day. And then when I went, they asked me, do you want to join us? I said, yes. When I went home, my wife said, you joined the Commandos and all this stuff? I said, yes, ma'am. Why? I said, I don't know. I just had to join.
Uh-huh.
So I went. 2 weeks later, Father Groppi asked me to go to Minnesota and make a speech for him for raising some money. So I had never made a public speech in my life. So I took about two or three commanders with me. And we went. I made the speech, and the money. When I came back, the youth council done made me head of the commandos. The Prentice McKinney, what was his name, who was kind of wild. He was down in the church basement shooting his gun off.
Oh boy.
And they said, we can't have this.
Yeah.
So, and they voted him out and voted me in. And when I got back, I didn't know about that. I got back, it kind of scared me to death. I got about 178 people at that time that if I tell them to go down and tear up the mayor's office, they would ask me after they get back, why did we do that?
Uh-huh.
Not before I do it.
Yes, sir.
And to have that kind of power scared me, and I didn't want to misuse it. Okay? I didn't want to misuse it. And so we marched. 361 days, sometimes night and day, for the open housing law until we got it passed.
Mm.
Then we got it passed in the state. Then it got passed across a lot of other cities, because other youth councils around the country was having our youth council to train them how to do the thing. Okay. So there we were. We got the law passed.
Mm-hmm.
All at once, Groppi decided that he didn't want to. He decided that blacks should be leading the group. He left the priesthood and got married. That's what he wanted to do anyway. He wanted to get married. It wasn't priesthood. He got married. Now, once more, I got voted as someone to take its place. And this is one thing I learned. This was a hard thing.
Okay.
It's hard to walk in other people's shoes.
Yes, sir.
That, you know what I'm talking about?
A little bit. Yes, sir.
It's hard to walk, and especially when they got big feet. You know.
Yes, sir.
So the thing, there I was. Then someone asked me to be on the board of Operation Breadbasket.
What was Operation Breadbasket? I'm sorry.
Operation Breadbasket was ran by Jesse Jackson. It was part of SCLC. It raised and organized all of the things that King did.
Okay.
And you know Jesse Jackson, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. There was 30 some offers. Someone asked me to be on the board, and I got on the board. Then the minister who was on the board, who was leading the thing, went to another church. Okay, went to truth is he went to a white church. And I told him, I said, you don't go out there hollering and shouting and talking and stuff. Them people don't do that. they quiet when they do this stuff.
Yeah.
But he wanted that recognition. So it was a Lutheran church. And the Lutheran was putting about $60,000 into Operation Breadbasket a year. Now, the person who was supposed to really take the place of that job was Cecil Brown, who was the deputy director. But he had in another program beat the Lutheran, that charity out of about $40,000 or $50,000. Okay.
Okay.
they was gonna stop putting the money into the program, and then the board asked them what they had to do, and the Lutheran thing told them that if you make Joe McClain head of it, we would put the money back. Here I go again. I got the youth council. That's the first time really working with a lot of young people. And now I got Groppi's place, and I got I'm in the head of Operation Breadbasket.
Right. Were you?
Mhm.
I was going to ask. At one point, did you ever become comfortable having that sort of authority?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I guess so because there was a friend living with me. I gave him a job working at Operation Breadbasket as a job developer for people.
Okay.
One day I found some people with family of 3 or 4 kids sleeping in the hallway, but both of these folks was chefs, skilled chefs. They had no job. They were from out of town somewhere. So I asked him to get them a job. And I come back about 2 weeks later, he hadn't got these people a job. I fired him.
Okay.
And I went out that afternoon and got them both jobs. Both of them was cooking for a Holiday Inn, one of the larger Holiday Inn, restaurant things they had there.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But also, the man I fired lives with me. I got him a job 2 days later at A.O. Smith, and he worked there till he retired. The only thing about him, he was not a self-starter. You got to point, you do this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you work in the factory, everything is laid out for you. You
Right.
don't have to
Mm-hmm.
do that. So I got him. I got him a job, and he worked there till he retired. But he told everybody, my buddy fired me. But
Focusing on the negative. I see.
well, I was trying to answer you. You were asking me the question: did I ever felt comfortable with the power? I always try to live with. I didn't want to misuse it.
Which to me means, because you were so conscientious and worried about that, you were probably in the place you were supposed to be. That's also how fate works, in my opinion, is sometimes you just end up in the place you're supposed to be without understanding maybe necessarily how come from the get-go. But I guess I'm asking, was there a revelation at some point that you went, yes, you agreed with the position you had been placed in and felt, like responsible enough to handle the authority?
Yeah, but I also came with Operation Breadbasket, was a radio program. I became a DJ. Once a
All
month.
right.
DJ Joe. What was your DJ name?
Did
They do DJ names back then?
Huh?
Did they do DJ names back then?
Yeah, but I'm Joe McClain.
right.
You went there.
Want to know?
Yep.
Didn't need anything else, huh?
Real name, no gimmicks. Don't be trying.
I did a 2-hour every Sunday afternoon program, music and politics with guests and everything. And that was that. Now, there were two more. There were two DJs, and black DJs way better than me. One was O.C. White. He was about number one, and Dr. Bob. He's Dr. Bob. They were two of the main ones. I just read a book my wife gave me the other day about O.C. White. Now, I've been knowing him all these years, but I didn't know he had 6 wives.
6 wives.
6 wives.
Wow.
I did not know that. And so I had those shows. And then one day I made a speech at a church. And the guy sat there and he heard me and he said, "You should meet my boss." And so he set up an appointment with his boss. His boss ran mortgage association dealing with housing and this type of thing.
Okay.
And so the boss talked to me, and he was part of an organization called the Young Presidents. These were presidents of large corporations before they reached the age of 40. Okay. Some of the largest corporations in Milwaukee, A.O. Smith, Harness-Wager, Allstate Insurance. These were that.
Yes.
He had me to speak at their main meeting. They had, their yearly thing. I was the main speaker. And just at this time, I had started working a little for the state. I ran a program called Concentrated Employment Program. And in this program, I could send you to school, and I also had about $2-3 million that I could I could pay an employer to train you for a year if he hires you. I could send you to school to get your GED or whatever you might want to have it, and give you the thing. And I had about 30 people working for me, developing jobs.
Wow.
And then I ran into this group of people that the Young President, and I spoke with them. And I sold them Joe McClain. And they all come around me asking me, what can they do for me? And I told them they can be, advisor to my program.
Sure.
And things. Now, Concentrated Employment Program, which I had got, which a woman helped me get, when she heard me talk, she went to some people in government, Governor Knowles, and got me a job. That's where I got that employment thing. We're working with those people. And she, in essence, so I got these people in from a young president, 40 and things, 40 big companies. They became my advisors. All but one uh, Harnisvager put up their own money because they didn't want to be dealing with government because there's too much red tape, dealing with in and out of government. And so they put up and set up their own training program, and they had a good one too. And so that's where I started dealing with employment, really employment, and in essence. And to tell you the truth, and with the 20 job developers, which developed 30 or 40 jobs a month, plus the ones I bring in from the other company. We did good. Job service got really, the establishment got really scared of us because we were doing such a great job, which they wasn't doing nothing.
Right.
And so, they started the war against us. And they cut off my money in a way. Now, first they hired another guy and put him over me. They wanted him to fire me. And he had to go back and tell them, so all the stuff I was doing, all the things that I was doing, protesting, I was doing it on my own time and not him. So they couldn't do a damn thing about firing me.
Uh-huh.
So they had to take it.
Yeah.
But,
good.
So that became another part of my life. I mean, see, eventually, my money started drying up in my program. So I took an exam. Oh, the guy who was going to he went back and told them, say he couldn't fire me because I wasn't doing anything violating any state rule.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I was doing everything on time. I was fighting the telephone company. The telephone company was 1,500 people a year. Blacks were filed for jobs at the Milwaukee telephone company there. None of them get a job. Okay, so I'm fighting them and fighting the people who sit on their board, and so that creates all that thing. First Wisconsin Bank, like I would take 100 people down on Friday at noon. We'll go up and get $20 worth of pennies and stuff, and then get in an argument and go and get it changed and walk out. And they couldn't do their regular business because we have that thing all messed up.
Yeah.
So the state started cutting my money. They couldn't fire me. They started cutting the money. So I got, but they ended up promoting me after the program just went down the drain. So that's how I got to Madison, Wisconsin.
I see.
I was just trying to figure out if you were still in Milwaukee or if this was after you came to Madison, after the, civil rights movement was over, so to speak.
When was I?
I was just trying to figure out which stage of your life this particular story was from.
You were
still in Milwaukee.
I was still in Milwaukee, and I was still here all three of those programs. And my youth council board, and they offered me a job in Madison. They said they were going to kick me out if I didn't take it.
This was the NAACP Youth Council.
Yeah.
I got a quick question for you, Joe.
Mhm.
So, like, during back in the day when you were in Milwaukee and working in civil rights and things like that, you had to deal with a lot of issues that could like either cost you your life or like really negatively impact your life. Kind of when you were sharing that story where you said you had to go into the street or being afraid and you left your daughters. Were there other times like that where you had to make a snap decision to like make a tough decision to see like maybe how things could negatively impact your life or maybe?
Well, the thing is that it got me a divorce because the fear, telephone calls, and remember when they had the little riot down in Milwaukee? National Guard was in my front yard and backyard. Then I couldn't get out, but it frightened my wife to the point where she couldn't. They called and tell her, "We're gonna kill your, your whatever." They put a lot of fear. It's not a fear in it, and it gets to the point, Fred, that you just won't let them scare you out of anything. It's you just keep on. And give you an example, when we march across that bridge, there'd be on weekend there might be 5,000 people. They start out marching, singing the song. Which side are you on, boy? Which side are you on? Okay,
Yes.
Charged up.
It goes, people be singing and just cheerful, but you get halfway across the bridge, you can hear the people on the other side. You can hear the noise of the people who you're going to run into on both sides of the streets that you're going to walk in between. And you can see them all at once. You can see the fear set in your crowd, and they get quiet. Then a guy like Tommy Lee will jump up and say, and start singing one of the freedom songs, and everybody grabbed through and looked like you can see the people grab, begin to lose their fear, and it's like saying, "The hell with you, we coming through this thing, okay?"
Yes.
And it's things like we had cars that if people get tired of sit, we can put them in the car and take them, wherever they want to go, to the hospital or whatever, home. And one time there was an old lady. I would think that lady was 75, 80 years of age, and she was walking with us. It's a hot day. And I asked her, I say, "Are you tired? You want to ride?" You know what she said to me? She said, "Son, my soul, my feet is tired, but my soul is satisfied. I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk."
Mhm.
You run into, we had to raise money to get people out of jail. lady come up. She said, I only got $2, and she said, I'm gonna give you one. And one of the commandos would say, no, keep you. And I told him, I grabbed him. I said, no, let her contribute. She done walk way down here to give you that money, and you're gonna take that privilege away from her. That didn't make sense. You know, it's so many things that went on in that and those marches and things.
Yeah.
If you go in that room in there, you look in that thing, you see two of my commando jackets in there.
Go check them out.
You want us to go get one, Joe? Show them the camera?
Yeah, she can go get them.
Which, where are they? I go run back there.
In my bedroom, look in the first drawer, you see one blue one. There.
You can keep talking while he's looking for him, Joe.
I know. What do you want me to talk about now?
Well, so, I mean, before we move on from the civil rights movement, is there anything that we haven't covered? I know you kind of alluded to how working for the organizations with Dr. King. Actually, I've never asked you this question. Where were you when you found out that he was shot?
I was meeting with some ministers over in Sherwood, Wisconsin, raising money to go to the Poor People's Campaign, which he had organized before he thing. And one of the daughters came in to our meeting and told us that he had just been shot. He had asked us to come down to Memphis and help him because the young kids down in Memphis was running through the line, fighting and thing. Matter of fact, one of them pushed King down.
Oh man.
And here not too long ago, that kid was on during February, I guess. That's Black.
History Month.
No, it's hanging up in. Yeah, it's hanging up.
Yeah, Fred.
And this kid, Black History
might have to
Month.
go help him.
Black History Month. That he told, one of the kids told, he says, we were paid to do that. And they asked him who paid him. What's his name? Oh man.
You're gonna have to give me a clue. I said you're gonna have to give me a clue.
Which is one of the larger? Did you find it? I'll get it to come from. That's one.
Okay, we'll take a commercial break and see the Commandos jacket. Go ahead and hold it in front of this camera, or let Joe hold it, because you're, yeah.
All right.
There's another one in there too, not blue color. This is what we wore all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Wow.
Oh man, there's 3 of them, and yours is the youth council. This is where I first started working with young people,
Uh-huh.
the youth council. Mhm. And that was it. And did you see it? Do you see it?
I think he's asking you, Michael.
Oh yeah, yes, I see it. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
I saw the front. The front was fascinating me.
This is the back.
Oh, that's the back. Yeah, okay. Now I know what I'm looking at. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's okay. Hey, take this one back. All right.
So who were you saying paid him to push?
The Michael, as I get older, my memory gets pretty bad sometimes.
It's been pretty good so far,
Yeah, I
Joe.
was gonna say you've been on point for over an hour, Joe. I would disagree. Maybe you just
Wow.
maybe you're just tired or you don't like talking this long.
Which is one of our federal.
Oh, you're talking about COINTELPRO.
Yeah, that's what somebody said. COINTELPRO. Yeah.
Hoover.
Hoover, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Executive Hoover paid those people to do that thing.
Yeah.
Hoover also, one of the things is he spied and made videotapes. Now King was not super loyal person. He messed around a little bit.
Yeah.
And Hoover and them took pictures of him of the things and gave them to his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Hoover thought that King was one of the most dangerous men in this country.
Sure.
Yeah. And
anybody that can lead
Hmm?
I said anybody that can become a leader at that scale. That's another thing I was worried about is how do you avoid that fear of being that type of leader? You know what I mean? When you have things like COINTELPRO going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, even with Joe, I mean, Joe, this is not the first time I've heard him say about when he was leading the Commandos that he had, 200 men that would do anything he asked.
Mm-hmm.
And the police were afraid of you at one point.
No. That when I came to Madison, Wisconsin, there was a bar down there on Williams Street called the Grinning Bear. And it was I saw one of my bummy young friends there, so I stopped by. Leon Gatson, and two drunks went outside to fight, and me and Gatson was shooting pool, and he said, "I'm going out here and see the fight." I said, "Man, why are you going out to see two drunks fight? They're gonna do us fall all over each other." And it ended up he had to go out and see it, and he didn't come back. So I went down. I went outside to see what the hell happened to him. Police had him down on the ground beating his butt.
Oh boy.
I hit the police on the shoulder and I said, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "Mr. McClain, he resisting arrest." I said, "In the hell he resisting arrest? He ain't there." But this one thing, I went back into the bar all at once. I haven't been in town too. This man called me by my name, Mr. McClain. Yeah, I said, I said, what the hell is this? You know. Then I found some friends, found a black policeman. He told me uh, in their room, they had my pictures there. And one of the things, and what they were telling them, don't mess with me because you'll start more trouble than you ever want to have in the city. So,
Yeah, you're messing with an army.
so
Messing with Joe.
that was that. What else you want to know about me, man?
Well, we made it to Madison, and we can circle back on some things later, but we still got the second half of your life pretty much. So, I mean, you work with the state and all the affirmative action programs you helped create. Arts Are Prevention. If you want to talk about it, I'd love to hear some of your experiences being in an interracial marriage that early, when it had to be a lot of threats that went along with that. Wherever you want to go from here, but let's first talk about some of your accomplishments with the state of Wisconsin once you moved to Madison.
Well, okay. Well, I come to Madison. I found, well, first thing is I ran into one of my bosses' name was Phil Lernerman. Phil Lernerman, me and his father was very great friends. They owned the Lernerman Tire Company in Milwaukee. When I was a young kid, they had where they recap tires behind my house, and I used to go down there and hang around and after school and ask him for a job, and he always said he didn't have. So I went around there and started getting a broom and started sweeping, cleaning it up anyway. God, clean up this mess for you. I'll do this. So he said, boy, you just take a job, won't you? So when I'm coming to that, then one day he wanted to put me and when I grown up, he wanted to put me in the tire business, start me in the tire business. I turned him down. He said, you just like my damn son. Y'all a bunch of do-gooders. Don't want to make no. I said, I just don't think I can make it in the tire business. I don't have it. So when I went to Madison, who in the hell was my boss? Phil Lernerman.
Oh boy.
His son. But we got along. We got along very well. And I became, being an affirmative action officer, I first learned one trick. You got a name, you get paid good, but you ain't got no power to do your job.
Uh-huh.
So then I looked at it. At first, I looked at the job. I got it. I got to persuade people to do things. Persuade people to do things? No. You don't do that in state government.
No.
Oh, yeah. So I decided one thing I began to do, I started dealing with the white women at first. I began to look at their pay scales and working in jobs at the same level that the white males were. And I'm finding there's a great deal of discrepancy in there. And I looked at the black males who was in there. There was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I began to mark all this down, and I began to blackmail my bosses. I because that was the only way that was one of my bosses who, after Phil Lerman left, his name was Joe. His name was Knowles. I got an exceptional performance award. You can get, and at that pace you can get from $1,000 to $25 for a successful run. Yeah, I got the $25,000. Well, I walked back into his office and I told him, "You take this damn thing, check and get you and buy you some ass wipe because I don't want it." And he looked at me and laughed. "What's going on?"
Oh, Fred's computer's dying. He's plugging up his charger.
And to get a increase in salary when you get an accepted performance award, whatever you get.
Sure.
And when I got my check, I hadn't got my increase. I went down to personnel and he said, "Joe Knowles come down and said not to give you one." I says, "Well," I says to the man, I said, "Now, I've been knowing for ever since I had this job that I've been underpaid."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "The only reason that I didn't complain about it, if I get what I was deserved to get, taxes would take it away, so I wouldn't take it." At this level, I take more money home than I would if I get it at my regular level.
Sure.
But I said, now I want my money. So I applied I got turned down twice. Then they sent this black dude in to do an evaluation of me and my job. They turned him down. They told him to go back. He come and he was sitting there in my office. I said, "Why are you sitting here in my office, spending your, on the thing?" He said, "I'm evaluating your job." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." So he went back and he wrote a letter saying I can name 100 reasons why Joe McClain could be reclassed, but I can't name one reason why he couldn't, and send me a copy of the letter. I went to my boss and said, "I told you, pay me now, pay me later."
Well,
I got my money.
You could. I think I might have to sample that from this broadcast. I got my money.
I got my money.
Yes, sir.
It was then I retired.
Before we talk to you about retiring, I mean, you created a lot of iconic programs while you were with the state.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about any of them?
Well, the affirmative action program I developed. Then I did
and just to be clear, that was the first affirmative action program the state of Wisconsin ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone, did you see a whole lot of backlash?
Yeah. But I turn over a table and get mad and nobody bothered me. Okay.
I guess one of the lessons we
they
can learn.
prefer. I was at the point in my life. They prefer to have me in and put up with me than have me out in the streets. You understand that? I caused them too much problems in the streets.
Yeah. Too much juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I rode that all the way. And I knew that. And I but I had to leave sometime. When I left at the age of 62, and one of the things I found, when I got 65, I was making more money for my retirement and Social Security than I would if I'd have retired at 65. But people wouldn't let me retire. And I'm walking down the street one day, and car stopped. Guy got out. He said, "Are you Joe McClain?" I said, "It all depends on who's asking." Okay. He says, "I'm from the Fountain of Life." I said, "What does that mean?" You know who I'm talking about? Alex G. He said, "They got a youth program down there, and someone said that you can run it very well. And they've been looking for you to offer you a job." You say, "Would you come down and just talk to them?" So I went down and talked to them. And it was a 2-year program dealing with the city and big brothers and big sisters all combined in one. And so I worked for them. I'd finished my 2 years, I ran the program or whatever. My wife was getting an award. Okay. I should have stayed at home. I went with her to get the award. I'm sitting at the main table at this place. And here is the guy at Tellurian. You ever hear of Tellurian?
Yeah.
Okay. I am. And he was getting an award with my wife. And he asked me, said, "What are you doing? What do you do?" And my wife said, "He needs a job." Carol did that to me.
Yeah, Carol.
He needs a job. Man, I was having a good time running the streets.
Yeah.
So real quick, 2 things real quick. First of all, just explain what Tellurium is to people that aren't from around here.
You do it.
I think this was a drug and rehab facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's people with drugs and mental problems. And I had both. I had the drugs and I had 20 people with mental problems that they pick up off the streets and homeless.
Right.
And so I had to deal with their meds and all the stuff. And some of the people that the doctors have them so drugged up that they didn't know they were going or coming. So I had to fight the doctors about that. And I had to learn about the meds. And the man wanted me to change he wanted me to change how the program was run, but he didn't give me the power to do it. You know. So when I went in there, and the other people who had jobs like myself, I had part-time, that's all I had. Like myself, when they feed the people and stuff, they go and lock themselves in their office and eat. Well, first thing I did, when I feed them, I go sit down with them and eat with them. Okay, and next thing, they had a playroom. I go and play dominoes, checkers, cards, everything with them. Pretty soon I had a group of them they would come. They had to be in by 12 o'clock. They would be there right out. Come in. Many come to eat. Come early, so we have our group session, and start working out. I come to work in the afternoon. 3 or 4 of them will meet me in the parking lot. I don't know if they wanted my cigarettes or they wanted. So then they wanted to give me a full-time job, and I wouldn't accept it. So I left.
Real quick, just in case anybody's curious, because Joe's talked about his marriage is kind of a roundabout through the show tonight. So Joe is currently married. Carol's your third wife, correct?
Yeah.
And you guys have been together 40, 50 years? How long?
47.
47. And Carol they met during the civil rights movement, working together in the civil rights movement, and Carol's also been involved in a lot of the stuff that you've done over the years.
Yeah.
So I just want, just in case anybody wasn't clear, when he's referenced his wife, that Carol is his current wife, and she's, sometimes behind the scenes, sometimes in front, just as involved in this stuff as Joe.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the biggest programs she created was with when she was head of Dane County welfare department and this and that. Well, what she did, she took the social workers out of the office and put them in the street, out there with the people, and had, so that you had social workers, police, you had the whole mixture together for service that come, and that program is still running today. That she did. Plus, she's a good friend of your mother.
Freddie, talking to you.
No, he didn't hear me.
I didn't hear what you said.
I'm talking about Carol.
I heard you say I met your mother.
No, and so that was that. Then I ran into you guys.
I was gonna see how, because you were involved in music long before us. So how did you get involved? Because you were involved in music long before Arts Are Prevention.
Okay. There was a person by the name of boy, where you going?
I gotta use the bathroom, Joe. Keep talking. I can hear you.
Okay. Person by the name of DeWitt Moore, who owned Pearlie's. Remember Pearlie's?
I remember Pearlie's.
Okay.
What's Pearlie's?
That was a bar.
Okay.
And
Neighborhood bar.
Neighborhood bar.
All right.
Some band people got stranded from Michigan here in Madison, and I kind of always wanted to be a music promoter, promote concerts and stuff like that. For some reason, but a friend of mine told me, say, that's I was talking to him about it because he was a promoter. He wasn't trying to talk me out of it, but what he said, Joe, you better be careful. He says, promoting things for black people is the hardest thing in the world to do. I said, why is that? He said, well, before they even say you go and you put out your money and get you a group, bring them in to bring in. Then you get your tickets out there, and your tickets don't move. Black people don't buy their tickets to the last moment. They go buy their outfits and
Yeah.
even practice how they're gonna walk into the dance before. That's what he told me.
Also, they want to make sure they can afford it.
Yeah. And so you be out there, you got $5,000-$10,000 out there, and you ain't getting nothing back.
Right.
You can't see yourself getting anything back.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that's a hard thing to do. So I took him at his word. But this band, after I retired, this band came to town, and they got stuck. No money. That's Michi and all of them. They didn't even have equipment. So they would call me in and told me about them. So I come and I listened to them play, and they were good. And so he said, "What about us managing them?" When it ends up, it was Joe managing them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I didn't know nothing about the music world in the sense, but I was learning fast. I learned fast. But that's when I come to them. If I manage you and find you jobs and promote and find you jobs, you going to have to teach kids.
So it was that early. The involvement with the kids was that early in your managing bands.
My man,
I never knew that. I always thought y'all went on the road and did however many tours you did, and then after that stopped, you were like, well, I got these musicians and I like kids. What can I do? But so it happened from the beginning.
We started working with Joe like not too long after Slice wasn't really touring that much. I actually got a chance to see him perform a few times.
They wasn't touring. When they toured, they was busted when they came to Madison. I got them a place to stay. Me and D-Wood got them a place to stay in this and that, and I made a proposition with them. If they teach the kids, I would help them get off the road. That's how I met Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and all of them.
Yeah.
And that was the deal. And because I couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, and so and they kept up with most of it. They did most of it. And I think I could have got them over the hump if it wasn't for Michi. I don't even know why Michi was in the band. He didn't have the talent that the other boys had. But at the same time, he couldn't. I get things done and set up where they have to be on the road for a week or two. He'll come and knock it down based on the fact because he had to babysit. Yeah, because I got his wife a job with Oscar Mayer when she come. He lived with me when he first came in town. And I should have made Michael head of the group, the person I would deal with, and so.
How many kids ended up coming through Outside Prevention?
Oh, quite a few. We had kids coming there. Do you remember that we had kids coming in there from Kenosha every Saturday morning? Milwaukee for every Saturday morning.
That would have to have been right. Like I caught maybe the tail end of that because you remember I came on board right as Michi was showing himself the door.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Fred, were you there for that?
Mm-hmm.
I can't, like, there were so many different phases of arts prevention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I kind of came in more.
Damn near the
There were
beginning.
multiple bands. There were multiple bands still going, and that's how I kind of got introduced. I could hear them practicing and performing and stuff, and we came in, and there were a few different groups that were still rolling or operating with the program. But
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't long after I joined that Michi left with all the equipment he wasn't supposed to take, and you had to kind of start over with just the core of us.
Yeah, but I went to what's his name? I went and got my he had my van and he had my equipment. I went and got both of them. One day, he looked up, they were on the bandstand, and there I sat. I started to take the stuff off the bandstand and walk. I said, well, no, I won't do that. So I let them finish, got my van and all the stuff, and they were in Atlanta.
Oh, you had to go all the way to Atlanta.
I had to go to Atlanta and get my stuff.
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah.
So by the time I joined up, we had at least another 5-6 years of arts art prevention.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've still been active after arts art prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Anything after arts art prevention you want to talk about?
Not too much. No.
Okay.
No.
I just know you still mentoring kids as of, recently.
Oh, I worked I'm part of 100 Black Men. And our job is working with youth. We work with the youth who in the school system that can't hardly make it. And we kind of encourage them and give them the help they need in order to make it. I work at West High School. And I work with about 10 to 15 kids over there. And that's it's kind of the last job we had. I got sick after that. I got sick I couldn't keep my health up. And so it ended up, but the program is still going. And 100 Black Men is that one of the trophies? No, is that black trophy there? What is that?
I'll get it for you.
No, you look at it. What does it say?
Award of Excellence presented to Joe McClain from 100 Black Men. Yeah, we'll show it. Hold it.
Oh.
I mean, 100 Black Men also even ties into the golf program, like my mom was mentioning. But yeah, we used to take professional lessons, and Joe used to take us out there, let us hit about 500 balls on Saturday.
Yeah, I did teach them how to play some golf. and yeah, you did remember that, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
You still play golf?
I still play.
Okay.
How many kids did you teach golf to?
God knows.
It was like 15.
I started first tee program. Yeah, that's from the PGA group.
Mm-hmm.
I started here, and I don't know how many kids we taught. And I used to, when you come here, if you come down Fitzhatchery, that little golf course you see down the road there, That was one of the places I used to teach. And and I taught quite a few kids how to play. I don't know. Not only me, I got other golfers to help, and thing.
So I've asked you this question years ago, but I'll ask it on the record now. How did you get into golf? Because that's very stereotypically a white activity.
Okay, I used to live with a guy who shared an apartment. He was a golfer, a hell of a golfer. And he used to always try to get me to go golfing. You know what I used to say to him? I said, that ain't no damn sport. That's a little old white boys game. They hit a little white ball and walk out across the field and chase it, try to find it. That was my excuse with him. Then my wife, I went to Cincinnati. Then my father-in-law, he was in the golf. He got up for breakfast one morning, come on, go with me. And took me out to a driving range and got a bucket of balls and laid the ball down and said, hit that ball. I said, man, I can hit that ball. That ball went everywhere, which way I want to go, sideways, backwards, everywhere. And I was there for a week, a little over a week. And every morning after breakfast, I would myself go there to that driving range and I hit balls. I buy balls all day long. That's where I spend my vacation, buying golf balls. And one day the man came out and he said to me, he says, you see that barrel over there? He said, you can get your balls out of there. You don't need to buy no more. But I want to show you how to hold a golf club and swing it. And he showed me, and I hit that ball, and that ball took off. You know, when you fish, sometimes you catch a fish in the lip, and then sometimes way down in the gut. That ball caught me way down in the gut. Okay. And when I got back home, you hear a golf course, there's across the street was the city dump, right? But behind the dump was a big field. And every night after work, I go out there and hit balls for hours. I just hit, aim, hit. And then I got some of my friends, they wanted to learn, so I started teaching them. I caught on to this sucker, and then that's when I got the PGA first tee program, and me and a woman named Joni died. And we had a program all the way up to Janesville.
And so for those who don't know, First Tee is a program that sponsors kids that want to learn golf.
By PGA, the pros. And I think it was started by Tiger Woods.
But you were the one that brought it to Wisconsin.
Yeah. One of the one. I ain't going to take all the blame. Me and a woman. I have most of my life, I have been a field hand, but I always grab people around me who like to cross all the T's and do all the other stuff. And I go out in the field and pick the cotton. Okay.
And that's not even just a metaphor, because that's one of the things you glossed over. You actually started out picking cotton back in Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
And that was on my list of things to circle back to if we had time.
They ain't got no time no more. Yeah. We over with them.
I mean, we can keep going if
What
you
time
want to
that
keep
clock
going.
say?
That's entirely up to you.
What time is it, Joe?
It's what's that, 9 o'clock?
Yeah, I mean, we can run longer, but if you're done, we can be done.
What do you think? I'm tired.
Well, we won't keep
Yeah,
you down.
well,
but
let Joe do his thing.
I did want to, give it a chance for questions.
Well, okay, question.
First from
Yeah,
Michael.
you got 2
Fred
minutes.
and I can hug you anytime.
Question, Mike.
Wow.
Sorry, Michael, I put you on the spot.
No, you're not on the spot. I'm front loaded for Joe.
Okay, well,
I'll get
you your coffee, Joe. We can go another hour.
we don't need to go another hour. Joe will be able to respond shortly and concisely. You've seen so much in your lifetime. You've witnessed a lot of American history. Like, how did the George Floyd murder impact you at all consciously?
Emmett Till.
Uh-huh.
You remember that?
That was
what you heard. Okay. Well, George thing, it's like, okay, let's straighten out something here.
Please do.
Before, when I come up as a young person, exception in Milwaukee, the black policemen were very decent people. But take Chicago. You ever hear of Two Gun Pete?
I want to say yes.
Well, Two Gun Pete, you look him up a little bit. Killed more black people, and to the point of 6 up in the teens.
Oh.
He, the way the black street people got rid of him, they got to his daughter and made a drug addict out of her.
Oh boy.
Black policemen used to kill more people than in days that I came up than the Floyd thing.
Sure.
Okay. I think they wanted to show the white policemen, they want to be accepted.
Right.
And so they go out of their way to be more vicious.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, there was a guy in Chicago, I don't know his name. Okay. Here, let me revert back a little bit. Fred Hampton.
Oh boy.
You know who that is?
Yes, sir. I know absolutely who he is.
He got killed in Chicago,
mm-hmm.
in his bed, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know that a black police sergeant let the people in there to kill him?
I actually, there was a movie made somewhat recently about Fred Hampton. And yeah, they get into it, how one of us, pretty much was responsible.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it was also a black police who began to start the Black Police Association, began to teach other black people, other black policemen, how to be good policemen and not vicious killers.
Sure.
And I can't even think of his name now, but and it started all over. That's changed that. But at the same time, a young black policeman came into my office in Milwaukee, and he said, Mr. McClain, I'd like to talk to you. I said, fine. He's been a policeman for about a year. He said, something happened to me that I can't handle it anymore. I said, what's the problem? Mm-hmm. He said there was a call about a robbery going on in a drugstore, I knew where the drugstore was, and so we all go busting up there. We get up, and the pharmacists, back in the old days, pharmacists managed drugstores.
Right.
The pharmacists come out. You say, we got a call that there's a robbery. The pharmacist says, that's not a robbery. But then out come this guy with a bunch of packages and a gun laying across his arm,
All right.
and he said he looked at it. He realized from the position the man had the gun that the man couldn't shoot him. So he put his gun back in the thing, went to run to grab to tackle the man, and all hell broke loose. And they were bragging about hearing their bullets hit the dude. He said, I can't work with people like that. He said, there's no way that I can work in that kind of environment.
Sure.
And I tried. I said, well, we need good police officers like you said. He said, I can't handle it. And so then, oh, by the way, man, my brother got on the police, after he got out of the army, got on the police department, the whole thing, and he quit. And I asked him one day, I said, why did you quit? He said, because I always had this dream that I had to put you in jail one day.
Oh, boy.
I said, boy. He said, no. He said, truth. I always had this dream that I'm going to have to put you in jail. Okay. That was my youngest brother. So
I see. Well, Dan, I don't see any questions racking up, but should we let Joe enjoy his evening?
Did you get back to what you were trying to say about George Floyd? You brought up Emmett Till briefly, and then you.
No, what I'm saying is Emmett Till was lynched like George. So many people are right now. What I saw in my young days, I'm seeing reverting back. I'm seeing the Ku Klux Klan and the White Citizen Council are growing stronger every day.
Yes.
And like I told my wife when I first saw this dude, they called Trump. I said to her, he don't want to be president. He wants to be a dictator.
Yes.
And that's all he's priming himself to be. That's why he liked Putin so much. He wants to be a dictator.
Yeah, Kim Jong-il too. He was very really. He's a great guy.
So, I can see the hate being developed that I saw when I was younger. Did I see all the changes that was made is being slowly eroding, taken back?
Sure.
So,
well, I mean, I don't mean to leave things on a damp note. I mean, in your opinion, what is the best thing that people can do now to fight against, this reversing of everything a lot of other people fought for? Like, what, in your opinion, can we do?
You can do it right now. I see it two ways. You can do it in the court system, one, and you can do it by protesting, and don't give it up.
Don't give up.
You don't give up. You see, the one thing that that I was talking to Black Panther Party used to try to get us to join.
Mhm.
One thing I tried to tell them was that y'all talk about armed revolution and you ain't got one factory to make a gun. You know, and I'm saying that the only thing that the man cannot handle and can't deal with is nonviolent situation.
Sure.
It really frustrated him because eventually okay, it's like when they were marching across the bridge trying to, and that was in Alabama or whatever.
Selma.
No, what? Trying to get to get the vote. What's his name? They were marching, and Bull Connor. Yeah, sick them dogs on them.
Oh.
Sick them dogs on them kids and all them things. See, they react so much, they'll turn their own people against them that will give you the help you need to change them.
Aha. I understand entirely what you're saying, Mr. McClain.
No.
Yeah. When their own people see them acting out of brutality,
Right.
then that changes their perspective.
In our marches, when I talked about it before. When we march 360 some days, and sometimes twice a day at night. And for them over 1,000 long. I would look back and I would see more white people in the line than blacks. That would hurt me. I would see more whites in the line.
I understand.
And it's very, you see, at that point, you cannot define who's your enemy.
Right.
What's happening to you there?
Mm-hmm.
You can't define who's your enemy because who you might think is your enemy is your friend.
Yes.
And so that makes you kind of schizophrenic. You don't know which way to turn.
You don't know who to trust. You can't vilify everybody if some of them are coming to your assistance.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, no, you gave me plenty.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
All right.
Fred, you got anything?
Oh, but there's something else.
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
One more thing I want to tell you.
Yes, sir.
I ran a program here for 2 years at one of the schools, and we were talking about racism, and a young black kid come into the program. He says, you can never win stop racism as long as you live in the tribal system. And I heard that, but the guys that working with me, they didn't hear it. And so the next week I had him to explain. I made him open the meeting, talk about tribal system.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, just take a look at our school. The only time that we have cohesive in our school is through our sports. Only the sports. The basketball team, black and white, they develop friendships for years. All the sport teams and whatever. He said the rest of it is just
still segregated.
I
said still segregated.
Right. And so, and I looked at it and I've been thinking about, man, this is a hard road to hoe.
So you didn't disagree with him. You just
No, I didn't disagree with him. I just, I listen to kids because a lot of times kids learn a lot of stuff.
yes, sir.
A lot of stuff. If you listen to them, I don't, and I listen to people like you.
Well, God bless you.
I'm through.
Okay.
He's through. Yeah, the Joe done said he's
Yeah,
through.
Joe. I knew he'd tell us. Fred, you got anything real quick before we end?
Nah, I don't really have anything. It's just great an honor to be able to spend time with Joe. Someone
Yes.
like I don't want to call him a true OG, but that's kind of how I put it, because
He is.
Joe is a gentleman and a gangster in a number of different ways.
The OGG.
They teach you how to like travel and move in a lot of different streams and a lot of different places, and
Yeah, but what the most compelling thing is is that many of the areas in which he made the biggest difference, he was reluctant to go.
Yeah.
It seems.
Where was that?
It seems that everywhere in which you were the most impactful, you were hesitant about embracing the task or doing what needed to be done. At least that's the impression that I was kind of.
Yeah, more like the opportunities that would come up.
Yeah.
People would put offers on the table for you so you can help create some type of program, and you kind of shared a little bit of hesitancy to get involved in some of those, but still had a really great impact.
Like, I really do believe that one of the main things you taught me today is that power only works when the right way when a person is humble. Like, you need humility if you're going to be an authority.
Right.
That's
true.
That's valuable to me, because a lot of people lead with their ego and think about what they can get done, for themselves, maybe before others. Like, power corrupts more people than not.
When I was a younger man, that when Black countries begin to win their freedom from their oppressors, and back. And I said to myself, now we can show white America, white Englishmen, how to manage, how to deal with different things.
Yes.
But how wrong was I?
Well, there's a margin for error for almost anybody.
You just said it.
We need time to learn how to look
man.
after ourselves. We haven't had the opportunity as long as other people have.
But I thought when they got that opportunity that we would show them how.
Oh, well.
No.
Wishful thinking, I'm sure, but I mean.
It was.
Yeah.
It was, because they just like them.
That's all right. We're learning, Joe. We tried to catch up.
You think so?
I think so. I think you're seeing definitely in law, or in the justice system, you're seeing more Black people all the time. I mean, I'm always reading about how Black women are the most educated, members of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are, getting in places and throwing their weight around, like Stacey Abrams, or I mean, even the fact that we have a Black vice president now, who's a woman. I mean, I don't. I'm not cynical enough to believe that all of that is just performative or pejorative or just for show. I really feel like some people are real, are really about it, that they're not always just trying to see what they can get for themselves. Some people think about others. I mean, I do. I can't be the only one.
I believe that.
All right.
I really believe that. I learn something every day, though.
Me too.
Every day.
I'm happy to be in your company, Joe.
Same here, sir.
All right. Will we be able to do this again at some point? Did we annoy you to the point where you might not want to come back and join us again?
I would maybe so, but not
Okay.
this long a time.
Okay. You heard him, Dan. Everybody keeps telling. Well, I keep telling Dan 2 hours is too long.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time.
Okay,
Yeah.
Joe. Well, we won't keep you any longer.
Okay.
But Fred and I will bother you later. And
All right.
Thank you so much for doing this. I hope that many people, including your children and grandchildren, will be able to look back and see a documented history of some of the things that you've done. Anything you want to say before we close off?
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah.
So,
By the way, these two guys I'm sitting here between, I'm very proud of them.
That's all right.
Very proud of them.
That's great.
I've often said that if anybody likes who I am, either through music or through politics and social issues and all of that, there's really two people to thank, and one was my dad, and the other is Joe McClain. Those are the two people that made me who I am in a lot of ways.
I'll say before I even knew what the word mentor was.
That was Joe. Joe was a mentor before you knew what a mentor was.
And what everybody is seeing of Joe tonight is exactly how he was, working with us 20, 30 years ago. He hasn't changed. He hasn't aged. This is so. But we'll let him go. Michael, real quick, we got something coming up next week. You want to tell everybody what we got?
Oh, we got John Altman next week?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain that. I'm not prepared yet. I still got to do a little more research. I'm not prepared. Just know that John Altman is joining us next week, and it's going to be incredible.
We have a record producer who's going to be our guest next week who has worked with Quincy Jones, who has worked with Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix,
Muddy Waters.
Name a legend.
He played with Muddy Waters too.
English
dude, English guy. Yeah.
Mark your calendars for next week because it's going to be another old guy telling stories. Which if tonight is any indication, those are some of our.
How would I get that on my thing?
I was say you say Muddy Waters, Joe.
Oh, okay. Well, Joe, one of them.
Last time I saw Muddy Waters was in Canada.
A gypsy woman.
Joe,
I'm a man.
Come over because I don't think you have YouTube. We have to set it up for you.
You can set it up for Joe.
I can set it up for you. Either I can come and show you later on, or I'll come back here next week and I'll do the show from here next week.
Why not?
Okay.
Then Joe can observe and not be put on the spot and enjoy himself.
Yeah. You got a problem with that, Joe?
Hey,
no problem. No problem.
Oh yes. Okay.
And so it'll be like this next week, except you won't be on the camera. I'll set it up so you can watch, but I'll be on the camera over here.
Okay.
So, you got any questions for Michael?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No. I'm glad I met you, sir.
That's
very glad I met you.
I'm glad I met you too, Joe.
And
okay. Well, on that we're signing out.
Joe was through 7 minutes ago.
So we'll get you some more of your shrimp and collard greens or whatever.
No, man, I'm full.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Joe ready to lie down.
I'm gonna eat that down the road.
Down the road.
Man, I'm not.
Thank you everyone for celebrating Joe.
Man, everybody coming in this door been bringing food.
At least they don't come empty-handed. I'll say that.
I mean, everybody been bringing food.
Yeah.
Well, you used to feed us when we were kids. We used to beg you to take us out to eat after rehearsal of the gig because our parents wouldn't take us.
Oh,
See,
God bless Joe.
I knew Joe was going to take us regardless, but I had to play along,
See, and I mean, it may not sound like a lot to, when we're, got people like John Altman and Michael's been all over the world and stuff like that. But Joe had us as children doing tours all over Wisconsin and Illinois in middle school.
Yeah.
Playing for huge crowds,
Yeah, it makes no difference where you're doing it as long as you're doing it.
And, I don't know how he managed, to book us. He would have us in front of like banquets with hundreds and thousands of people, and we were just kids.
How can you not book the band with the soulful keyboard player that stands on top of the keys?
I used to do this gimmick where
Carol still talking about dad standing on top of the keyboard.
But what is this craziness I'm hearing about now? You used to do what?
So what happened was, I wanted a Hammond organ badly, but I couldn't afford one. So I built one using parts, and we would drag it to every gig.
And that thing was heavy.
And so when it came time to take a solo, I never really knew what to play. But in the interest of showmanship, since this was a real organ, it was a solid, I would get up and stand on the top of the organ and play it with my feet.
Oh.
And the crowd ate it up.
Wow.
There are pictures. Actually, if Joe will humor us a little longer, I might be able to find a picture of me standing on an organ and put it on the screen. Hold on a second.
Uh-huh.
So here comes Dan in a solo time.
So
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Good times.
Gotta have
Wow.
a picture of this somewhere.
Boy, do you see? No, you're in Chicago. I forget. I keep thinking you're here. And I think it's the first thing I do when I never see your mother. I talk to her on the phone. Where's the boys?
Whoa.
See the picture,
All
Joe?
right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was the Hammond. I probably was maybe 8th or 9th grade by that point.
Okay.
I didn't have the parts to build a Hammond until a few years in, and you can see it's got plumbing pipes as the legs,
I'm
and
looking at
plywood
that.
as the back, but it's got real guts, and then so that's me standing on it and playing it with my feet.
Wow. Maybe you missed your call. Maybe you were supposed to be an electrician or something. If you built a Hammond organ?
Yeah.
All right.
Mary has pictures. So okay, well now that we're talking about me, I'm more than happy to end.
Yeah,
So,
all right. Well, give us the benediction and give us the may the Lord watch.
Hey, you want to pray us out, Joe? Never mind. So again, thank you everyone very much for joining us.
I'd like to see you again sometime, okay?
Well,
Yes, let's
we'll
do
see
it
him
soon.
next week, remember? Because I'm going to bring.
Yes.
We're going to be on location next week, and we'll talk to Altman from over here.
And we'll make sure he talks about muddy waters so that Joe has something he's interested in being discussed.
No. Well, it's yeah, I love the blues.
Yeah, well, yeah, the blues is universal.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hard
Yeah,
times.
Yeah. And,
All right. Well, until we meet again, Joe, and hopefully
Okay.
next week we'll see you.
All righty.
signing
Fantastic,
off for real
Frederick.
this
Great to
time.
meet you, Frederick.
Pleasure to meet you as well.
Dan, yeah.